I should have walked out the moment I saw the empty seat. It was Martha's birthday, my mother-in-law. A family dinner. 10 people gathered around a long table at some overpriced Italian place in Arlington. I'd come straight from the office, tie half loosened, gift bag in hand, expecting a seat next to my wife. But when I stepped in, every spot was taken. No chair for me. Julia looked up from her phone. Red dress, lips too bright, the kind of dress she hadn't worn for me in over a year, and said without blinking, "Oh, you made it." We weren't sure. No one got up. No one offered a seat. Her sister glanced at me, guilty. Her stepdad gave a tight nod. Even her mom pretended to stir her wine a little harder. I wasn't invited? I asked quietly. I knew my voice didn't match the smile I was forcing. Julia rolled her eyes. "We didn't know if you'd show. You're always working. Don't make this awkward." Awkward. I looked around at this group of people I'd taken on trips, bought Christmas gifts for, helped with home repairs. Now I was standing like a stranger in my own family. "I'll grab a chair," I muttered. "No need," Julia cut in. "You can take mine. I'm heading out anyway." She stood, picked up her purse, and kissed her mother on the cheek. "Love you, Mom. Tell me how the dessert is." "Where are you going?" I asked. She didn't even look at me. "Work call. Don't wait up." And just like that, she walked out. I stood there like a fool for another 15 seconds before I nodded to Martha and said happy birthday. I left before the waiter brought the bread. In the car, my hands clenched the wheel tighter than I meant to. Something was off. I wasn't an idiot. Julia had been distant for months. But this was new. Cold. Confident. Like I was an inconvenience now. Back home, I dropped my keys, loosened my tie, sat at the kitchen island, and opened our shared phone account dashboard. Something I hadn't checked in years. Her call history was meticulous. A number repeated dozens of times. Late nights, lunchtimes, early mornings. Area code I didn't recognize. I did a reverse search. Nathan Carter. No saved contact, but I remembered the name vaguely. She'd mentioned a friend from her Pilates group a few months ago. I thought nothing of it at the time. I kept digging, pulled GPS logs from the sync tracker in her car. While she told me she was working from the downtown office last Thursday, her car had been parked for 3 hours outside the Stanton Suites on Fairfax Road. Hotel. Afternoon. Check-in time. I stared at the screen. The timestamp. The location. The number. And then her text flashed in real time at the top of the screen. "Julia, you still at that thing? Can you pick up almond milk on your way back?" I exhaled through my teeth. She wasn't even trying anymore. I didn't answer. Just stared at the glow of the screen until my eyes blurred. The front door opened at 9:41 p.m. She breezed in, heels clicking, talking into her AirPods, laughing at something I couldn't hear. She saw me in the kitchen, phone still on the counter. "Oh, you're home?" she asked, tone flat. "Yeah," I said. "Got back early." She hung up her call, tossed her coat on a chair, and walked to the fridge. "Your work call?" I asked. She paused, glanced over her shoulder. "Yeah. What? Which client books hotel rooms on Fairfax?" She turned slowly, eyes sharp. "I don't know what you're implying," she said. "But maybe if you weren't always checking apps and trackers like some insecure teenager, we wouldn't be in this mess." "You call this a mess?" I asked. "No," she said, coldly. "I call this the end. You just haven't figured it out yet." She walked out of the room without another word. But I didn't follow. I'd already started figuring it out. And this was just the beginning. Julia thought she'd won. That was clear the next morning when she strolled into the kitchen like nothing had happened. She wore a soft gray hoodie, hair tied back, no makeup, the picture of casual detachment. No apologies. No explanations. She poured herself coffee like I hadn't just caught her movements with a GPS ping from a hotel the night before. "You didn't get the almond milk," she said. I didn't answer. Just looked up from the tablet in front of me. She didn't flinch. That was the thing about Julia. When she thought she had the upper hand, she never blinked. That's what made her dangerous. And useful. If you let a person like that believe they're in control, they'll give you everything you need to destroy them. So that's what I did. I let her think she had control. I took the next few days to upgrade my access, her iCloud, location sharing, backup messages, call logs. We still shared our Verizon plan, old habit, and I quietly upgraded the security settings from my own admin account. Installed a discrete tracking app on the second phone she sometimes left charging in the laundry room. That one was key. It hadn't been reset in months. Turns out, she'd used it once to log into her old Facebook account. And from there, gold. I started pulling fragments, late-night messages, DMs to someone named NC, chat logs that looked like they were lifted straight from a bad relationship drama. Half the messages were vague. Missed that room. Same sheets, or next Friday, same routine. But enough of them mentioned you-know-who, and he still thinks I'm just burned out to make the picture crystal clear. She wasn't just cheating. She was preparing to leave me. One message she'd sent to a friend, someone named Layla, dated 2 weeks back, read, "He still doesn't suspect. The new place is almost finalized. Nathan's handling it all. Once it's done, we're dropping the bomb. I'm not doing some drawn-out divorce BS. He'll be out fast." It took effort not to slam my fist through the screen, but I didn't. I closed the app and made a list. Not of people to call, not of things to say, a list of evidence. Julia hadn't considered the possibility that I wasn't hurt, that I wasn't blindsided. She didn't know I'd started noticing 3 months ago. That time she came back from a company retreat, smelling like men's cologne and carrying a Lululemon bag with no tags. Or when she suddenly got interested in financial independence and asked how our joint account could be split if anything ever happened. She laughed as she said it. You never know, right? But I already knew. I just wasn't ready. Now I was. I backed up everything. Screenshots, texts, hotel check-ins. Even a screen recording of a live call with Nathan while she thought I was asleep. I couldn't hear him, but her words were clear. He's still here. Ugh. No, it's like babysitting a corpse. But don't worry. I'm setting everything up. She said that from the guest room, not knowing I'd left the baby cam installed there since my niece used to nap during visits. She never unplugged it. 2 angles. Perfect lighting. Full sound. And the best part? Julia documented everything herself. Selfies in the car, voice notes, gym pictures. In one of those photos, I saw his reflection in the gym mirror behind her, his hand resting on her hip. She hadn't even tried to crop it. Sloppy. Arrogant. Good. Let her be bold. Let her feel untouchable. At home, she kept dropping casual little threats. Testing the water. Don't forget, I'm seeing Layla Friday. Spa evening. I nodded. No expression. Oh, she said one night, swirling a glass of wine. If things between us don't improve, maybe we should consider a clean separation. Nothing messy. Nothing messy. She had no idea what was coming. By Sunday, she left the house around noon. Didn't say where. Her GPS signal landed at a townhouse in Westover and stayed there for 6 hours. I saved the route map and moved it into the folder. That night, she came home early, took a long shower, and asked, with fake concern, "You okay?" "You've been quiet." "Just tired," I said. "You?" "Same. Long week." "Yeah," I said. "Bet." She walked upstairs in the same robe she used to wear when she'd curl up next to me on movie nights. The robe still looked soft, but now it just felt like a costume. Let her play the part. Let her keep thinking this was her show. She wouldn't see the final act coming. On Thursday evening, she finally said the words she'd been rehearsing in her head for weeks. "I talked to a lawyer," Julia announced, leaning on the kitchen counter like she was updating me on trash day. "You'll need to move out by the end of next week." I was sorting through some mail. I didn't even look up. She pushed further. "It'll be easier this way. Clean. No screaming. No drama." I placed the envelope down, turned to her, and nodded once. "All right." That word, so calm, so casual, threw her off. She blinked. "That's it. No fight? No begging?" I shrugged. Why would I beg to stay somewhere I'm clearly not wanted? Julia folded her arms. "I thought you'd have more to say." I gave her nothing. Let her interpret that however she needed. That was the beauty of silence. It unsettles people who expect control. She turned, frustrated, and walked upstairs. I let her go. The conversation had gone exactly how I wanted. She thought I was folding. But what Julia didn't know, or had forgotten in all her planning, was that the house wasn't ours. It was a rental. A temporary lease, signed under my LLC 2 years ago when I was transitioning between contracts and needed to maintain separation of liability for tax reasons. Her name wasn't on anything. No deed. No loan. Nothing. And the joint account she used to pull money from? That was a front, a capped, limited access fund I kept for minor shared expenses. Grocery runs. Utility bills. A decoy. My real income came through project-based invoices, routed through multiple business accounts she didn't even know existed. I kept it that way not because I was hiding, but because she'd never asked. Julia had always shown the same level of interest in my work as she had in my coffee order. None. She assumed. She dismissed. She called me comfortable. Now, she thought she was walking away with the house, the lifestyle, and probably a story to spin to her friends about how she finally left the deadweight. Let her believe it. That evening, I made no mention of the lawyer I'd already hired 3 weeks ago. No mention of the digital folder I'd labeled Exhibit A, filled with location logs, screen recordings, and voice messages. No mention of the fact that my resignation from this marriage was already typed, notarized, and filed. She still thought she was the one ending it. And I was happy to let her have that illusion for just a little longer. The next morning, she came downstairs in full makeup. Friday. Supposedly a work-from-home day. Tight black slacks. Silk blouse. Hair curled. Perfume strong enough to smell from the other side of the living room. I looked up from my coffee. Big Zoom call. She didn't smile. Don't what? She grabbed her keys and muttered, I'll be back late. Maybe tomorrow. I said nothing. Just sipped my drink as the door closed. 10 minutes later, I received a notification from the tracker. Her car was already parked at a condo in Falls Church, Nathan's Place. She'd been there every Friday for a month. This time, I didn't even screenshot it. I didn't need more proof. The next few days were mechanical. She was polite. I was distant. She floated around the house like a tenant waiting for her deposit, making phone calls behind closed doors, answering texts that lit up her screen with emojis and hearts she didn't bother to hide anymore. And then, Sunday afternoon, she made her move. I was in the garage, clearing out old boxes. She appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. Have you thought about where you're going yet? I wiped my hands on a rag. Not really. You do realize I'll need time to stage the house for the realtor, she added. I turned slowly. Realtor. She blinked. Yes. I'm calling one tomorrow. I think it's time we sell. I couldn't help but smile. Oh, you think we own it? I couldn't help it. I smiled. Oh, you think you own it? Julia's face twitched. I mean, it's ours. No, I said, stepping closer, still calm. It's not. The lease is under my name. My company name, technically. Which you're not a part of. She stared at me, realization slowly crawling across her face like a crack through glass. You're bluffing. I reached into the cabinet beside me and pulled out the folder. Lease agreements. Payment records. Corporate registration. I handed it to her. She opened it. Flipped the pages. And for the first time in weeks, Julia had no words. Don't worry, I said. You can still stage it for the next tenant. Just not for a sale. She tried to recover. Fine. I don't care. It's just a house. Exactly, I said. So you won't miss it. She slammed the folder shut. You've been playing me. No, I said, turning away. I just stopped letting you play me. She didn't answer. Just stood there breathing, unsure whether to scream or cry. Neither happened. She turned and walked back inside, slower this time, unsure of her footing in a house she just realized she didn't own. I leaned on the workbench, took a breath, and smiled to myself. Checkmate was still coming, but I just removed her queen. I moved out on a Wednesday. No drama. No boxes piled high on the sidewalk. Just one black duffel, a laptop case, and a steel lockbox with everything that mattered, contracts, account info, and the evidence. I left her the furniture, the dishes, even the espresso machine I bought last Christmas. She stood on the porch as I loaded my car, arms folded, that smug half-smile on her face. So that's it, she asked. You're just leaving? I paused at the driver's door. You said you wanted space. Right, she muttered. Didn't think you'd take the hint so easily. I didn't answer. Just shut the door and backed out of the driveway without a glance. By the end of that week, Nathan had already moved in. I knew because a neighbor, the one who always pretended not to notice anything, texted me a picture. There he was in gym shorts, hauling in a weight bench and a stack of protein tubs like he was prepping for a self-worship shrine. Julia stood next to him, holding a welcome home balloon. They weren't hiding. She'd won, and she wanted everyone to know. New Instagram profile photo, the two of them smiling in front of the house, his arm around her waist, her captioning it, "Fresh starts feel like freedom." I didn't respond. I just watched. For the next few weeks, I stayed quiet, let them play out their fantasy. Julia started hosting dinner parties, game nights with their new couple friends. She posted filtered photos of wine glasses, charcuterie boards, and perfectly lit selfies in front of her fireplace. But then the cracks started. First, it was the noise complaints. Another neighbor mentioned shouting through the walls. She passed it off online as passionate discussions, but everyone could hear it. Then came the money issues. I'd already pulled our final joint bank statement. She assumed I'd leave a few grand floating in there, enough to carry her for a month or two. What she didn't realize was that the moment I walked out that door, I closed the account and transferred every cent into a private holding. Legally, I was clean. What she had left was a maxed-out credit card and a house she had no claim to. 3 weeks in, I got a message from one of our old friends, Neutral Territory. "Hey, just a heads up. They're trying to sell stuff from the garage. Said it's extra. But that's your bike, man. Thought you should know." I smiled. That bike was listed under company property. Another asset. I called the landlord that afternoon and scheduled an inspection. Turns out she hadn't paid the rent. 2 months behind. The notice went out the next day. And still, she kept posting. Another date night, this time at a seafood place where Nathan posed with a champagne bottle they probably couldn't afford. Her smile was thinner now, the light behind her eyes dimmer. I knew that look. It was the same expression she wore in the final year of our marriage, before the performance took over. Back when the tension couldn't be hidden behind lipstick and ring lights. One evening, I passed by the old street after a meeting. Their porch light was off. Nathan's truck wasn't in the driveway. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. But I saw enough. Dark windows, dead plants, and a half-broken folding chair on the front lawn. This was her upgrade. This was what she threw everything away for. I spent that night on the balcony of my apartment, 6 stories up, city lights flickering beneath me. I sipped a drink, not out of celebration, but out of quiet clarity. Let her post. Let her lie. Let them both act like this was the dream. Because the mask was slipping. And soon, there'd be nothing left behind it. The first message came on a Thursday. A simple text. No context. No apology. No mention of the divorce papers she filed or the life she built with Nathan. "Hope you're doing okay." I stared at it for a few seconds. Let the screen go dim. Didn't respond. The next one came 3 days later. I saw your name pop up in that real estate article. Congrats. Still no question. No conversation starter. Just breadcrumbs. Testing. I didn't take the bait. By the second week, her tone shifted. I just wanted to talk. As friends. I think we owe each other that. Friends. That word stuck in my head for a while. She'd used it like a shield, a softened edge meant to make betrayal look civil. I typed a response. Short. Direct. We don't owe each other anything. She left it on read for 5 hours before replying. You don't have to be so cold. That was rich, coming from her. This, from the same woman who stood in our kitchen and told me she was already planning to replace me before I even packed my bags. Now that her glossy little dream with Nathan was falling apart, she wanted civility? No. But I didn't block her. I let her text come through. Not because I was curious, but because I wanted her to feel the weight of being ignored. I wanted her to sit with the silence. By week 3, the mask cracked further. She sent a voice message. Not long, under 20 seconds. Her voice was tired, slower, like she'd rehearsed what to say and still couldn't make it sound convincing. I know we've both moved on, but I just miss talking. That's all. I saved the message, filed it with the others. The next time I heard her voice was in person. I was leaving a meeting downtown, briefcase in one hand, phone in the other, when I saw her across the plaza. She was sitting alone on a bench near the fountain. Hair pulled back. Makeup thinner. No camera smile. She stood up as I walked by. "Marcus," she called. I paused. Turned. "Julia." There was a beat of silence between us. The kind that feels heavier than anything spoken. "You look good," she said. "Busy?" "I am." She nodded like she'd expected that answer. I was hoping maybe we could talk. Just a coffee. No drama. I didn't blink. What would we talk about? She swallowed hard. Things have been difficult. There it was. The first real crack in the wall. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. "I really am." But, I replied. "I just don't think I'm the person you should come to with that." Her eyes darted downward. "It's not about getting back together. I don't have many people who understand." I almost laughed. "Maybe you should talk to Nathan." That hit. Her face tightened just enough for me to notice. She didn't reply. Instead, she nodded once, trying to hold on to whatever dignity she had left. "Well," she said, "I guess I deserve that." I didn't say that. "But you're thinking it." I didn't confirm or deny. Just adjusted the strap on my shoulder and said, "Take care of yourself, Julia." I walked away without looking back. Later that night, she sent one final text. I didn't know how much peace cost until I lost it. I didn't answer. She didn't text again for a while. Because now she understood what silence really meant. It wasn't anger. It was closure. The message came from Carla, one of those mutual friends who swore she didn't take sides, yet always seemed to know everything before anyone else. You'll love this. Nathan's been caught texting some intern at his gym. Julia found the messages. Apparently, he called her a burnout. I didn't reply. Just let the words settle. It didn't surprise me. Men like Nathan don't stay loyal. They perform loyalty until something shinier walks past. Julia thought she'd traded up, that she'd picked a man with drive and edge. What she really picked was someone who viewed her as a temporary upgrade. 2 days later, another update. They had a full-blown screaming match in the parking lot outside a brunch place. She threw her coffee at him. I could almost see it, Julia, dressed in white, trembling with rage as she hurled a latte across a BMW hood. Nathan standing there, arms wide, trying to act like he had it all under control while bystanders watched like it was a reality show. This was what she left me for. This was her better. From what I heard, Nathan didn't deny the affair. He didn't explain it either. Just shrugged it off. Said he was allowed to have friends. Same line Julia once used on me. Karma doesn't always come with flames. Sometimes it walks in calmly, sits down at the table, and starts cutting into your perfect little dinner. The final cut came a week later. Julia called. I didn't answer. She called again. Then again. On the 4th ring, I picked up, not because I wanted to talk, but because I wanted her to hear exactly how little she meant now. Marcus, she said, voice sharp and raw. I needed to hear a sane voice. I'm not your safety net, Julia. She paused. I know that. But I didn't expect this. He left. No explanation. No keys. Just gone. You're shocked? I trusted him. So did I. That shut her up. For a moment, all I could hear was her shallow breathing. Then she spoke again, voice quieter. I know I messed up. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything. But I just didn't think I'd be here. Where exactly is here? In a 1-bedroom apartment with no furniture and a rent check I might not be able to write. I didn't respond. She filled the silence. I'm not asking for money. I just needed to hear from someone who knew me before everything fell apart. You mean before you burned it all down? Before I made a mistake? I took a breath. Measured. No, Julia. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. She didn't reply. I kept going. And you made it with your eyes wide open. I just hope you remember how it felt the next time you start looking for someone to blame. You think I deserve this? She snapped. No, I said coldly. I think you earned it. Click. I hung up. No yelling. No insults. Just the sound of finality. That night, I got a message from Carla again. You won't believe it. Nathan's already moved in with that intern. Some girl who calls herself a fitness influencer. Julia's completely wrecked. I leaned back in my chair, watching the lights of the city flicker from my apartment window. I hadn't changed the view, only the perspective. This was never about revenge. Not really. This was about watching people arrive at the consequences they tried so hard to outrun. Julia didn't trip and fall. She walked right into it. The email was simple. Subject, quarterly strategy mixer, attendance confirmed. A casual work gathering. Dress code, business casual. Location, the rooftop of a corporate partner's office in downtown DC. Half of Julia's old colleagues would be there, plus new clients, old family friends, and a few mutuals from back when things were good. I knew she'd be attending. Carla had mentioned it offhand in a group thread I never left. Julia's presenting at that mixer thing. Can't believe they let her speak after all that drama. Perfect. I arrived early. Not too early. Just enough time to greet the host, grab a drink, and nod through the polite smiles of people who only knew me as Julia's ex. They hadn't heard my side. They didn't need to. Not until tonight. Julia walked in 20 minutes later. Dressed tight, heels loud, confidence faked but polished. She didn't see me at first. She was too busy laughing, flashing that trained smile at the marketing director, holding a wine glass like it was a trophy. Nathan followed behind her. Slim-fit shirt, sleeves rolled, hair sculpted like he'd spent hours in front of a mirror just to look natural. He looked around, trying to claim the room with his presence. He didn't see me either. Good. I waited until the lights dimmed and the AV screen behind the platform blinked awake. Julia stepped up to the mic, guest speaker of the evening. She cleared her throat, smiled. Before we start, I just want to thank everyone for coming. I know it's been a busy quarter for all of us. The screen behind her flickered, then changed. Slide 1 wasn't the company's quarterly roadmap. It was a paused video. Hotel hallway. Timestamp in the corner. Julia's voice, off-screen. He still thinks I'm burned out. Poor guy. There was a gasp before anyone processed what they were seeing. She turned to the screen, confused at first, then terrified. The video played. 3 clips, stitched together. All date-stamped. All from her phone, pulled from her cloud backup weeks ago. 1. Julia in a hotel mirror, wearing a robe that wasn't mine. 2. A message thread between her and Nathan, joking about how slow Marcus is. 3. A voicemail. Nathan's voice. Let him keep paying the bills. We'll take care of the rest. No music. No cuts. Just their words. Their faces. Their truth. The room was dead silent. Julia stepped back from the mic like it had turned to fire. What the hell is this? She hissed. Nathan looked around wildly, trying to gauge who had done this. That's when I stepped forward. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. I just walked up to the mic, took a breath, and said, "This is your real face. I'm done playing. No speech. No confrontation. Just that." I turned and walked away. Behind me, chaos unfolded. Julia lunged for the laptop. Someone grabbed her wrist. People whispered. Some walked out. Carla stood frozen, hands over her mouth. Nathan shouted something at me, but I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. He wasn't part of the story anymore. Neither of them were. Outside, the air felt cleaner. Colder. Honest. I stood by the curb, pulled out my phone, and opened the final folder. Deleted it. Every screenshot. Every recording. Gone. It was never about holding on to proof. It was about knowing when to let it burn. And tonight, it burned exactly the way I planned.